Uncommon amongst the uncommon. Okay, so Jerrod, what does that even mean?
Well, first off, I gotta give props to my man Dwayne, who recently came through one of our law enforcement classes, and like everything else we do for people, Ali, it challenges them, and I challenged him during those 3 days, and at the end of it, he told me, he's like, dude, you are uncommon amongst the uncommon, and thank you for making me better, basically. And I like, oh, I love that. So I threw that on the T-shirt. We're going to use that as our business slogan for 2022 to really challenge people to become uncommon amongst the uncommon. So what does it mean to me? That means that you're willing to walk in your own path and your own greatness. Touching back to, we had Courtney on last week, and that was her superpowers. If she could remind every person that they could be great. And to me, that's what being uncommon amongst the uncommon means, is you're not afraid to step into your greatness and to walk your own path. What do you think?
I like that. I think that it just means not conforming, not doing the status quo just because that's what everybody else is doing. And it's so easy to just fall into social influence, right? But really following your heart and following what you believe is going to be best for you. And I think it's just a different way of saying what you're saying, of really stepping into your greatness and not being so concerned about, oh, I got to do the blueprint. Go to grade school, go to college, get a degree, get a job, work for the rest of my life, 401k, retire, get a house, have kids. You know what I mean? Like, make your own path.
Yeah. So and I think it can be different for everybody. Like how you're uncommon amongst uncommon, it can be different than how I am. But what I there has to be, right? It doesn't say uncommon amongst the common. I think that's much easier to obtain. But when you're uncommon amongst the uncommon, that means you're even more in tune to what it is you want out of life. You're more in tune to what you can give back to the world than even those that are not common as far as takers, even those that are mainstream. And to me, that it really comes back to, you got to know what you want, and you got to know what your gifts are and where your talents are, and how do you tap into that, make the most of it. That's what would make you uncommon, right?
Yeah.
Denying it, going just like you said, going with the flow with what everybody else is doing. There's nothing uncommon about that. And sadly, to me, there's also nothing living big in that either, right? I mean, no,
hmm
you're not living it to your full potential. So that, to me, that's what it means, man. When you're uncommon amongst the uncommon, you really stand out because you're embracing your life and taking ownership of your life and responsibility for your life and making the most of it.
So, what would you say are some examples in your life, Jerrod, that really set you apart, that bring that uncommon amongst the uncommon for you?
So I think just like today, let's just take example here, man. Like Andrea and I, we're about 10 days into kind of living off the grid at a small property we've developed. I mean, we're don't, there's many times we're only two up there, living off solar, no other real energy sources for us. So we got to manage all that. And you're talking to a city kid here. Like, none of this stuff is normal for me or what I ever grew up with. So I think that's a huge one, right? Like, at my age, many of my peers are still trying to acquire things and, putting another 10 years onto their career to pad their retirements and stuff, whereas we're walking away from all that and selling houses and moving to a more simplistic life because we realize we want something different and something uncommon, and not everybody understands it. And a lot of people think we're idiots or nuts, probably, to be honest.
hmm
But I mean, right now, I think my day to day life shows that we're pretty uncommon. What do
Yeah, for sure.
but I
That's
get,
pretty cool.
like, look at the benefits of being uncommon, dude. I wake up and I hear turkeys right outside my house, and I walk with them in the mornings, and like, there's so many things that I can't experience if I were continue to do what I've always been doing.
Mhm.
What about you? What do you find that you're doing that's making you uncommon?
Well, I feel that I was kind of born into uncommon amongst the uncommon of first of all being like Palestinian Mexican. You know, I've only met two other people on the planet that have that exact like mix up, and being a first generation American on my father's side, a Muslim and Catholic. So I always felt like I kind of was born into some of that. But I would say like along my journey that now my true passions are pretty uncommon amongst the uncommon because there's so much contrast with them of like, you know, I have this side of me that's very spiritual and meditates every day and does yoga very often and is full of love and compassion, and also have this other side of me that absolutely loves martial arts and loves to fight and loves that competitive fierce fire side, wants to get in the cage and, you know, knock skulls. So I think that's a big part of how I've created my life to be uncommon amongst the uncommon, is to really experience the vast spectrum of emotions and ways of being.
Yeah, and I think you sell yourself short, my humble brother. And I think that's one of the things that makes people unique and their being uncommon is that we don't walk around and tell everybody we're uncommon amongst uncommon. You don't have, there's no, there's no flag you carry, there's no tattoo you get. You do it through actions,
Mm-hmm.
right? And like, I look at you, and yes, you run businesses, and yes, you fight, but you also do yoga and you meditate. And you know what I mean? Like, you do so many things that are opposite. That is part of your power, and what makes you uncommon is you can balance them. Right. And I think that's one of the joys of living your life to its best, is you're going to inspire somebody else to do the same.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And by you, like, because you're atypical, like, say, even in the MMA world, you're atypical in that you read a ton and you study self-improvement outside the cage, as far as meditation and yoga and fitness and trying to do the splits, right? So MMA fighting is already uncommon. Not everybody will do that. But within that realm of uncommon, you stand out as being even more different, because you're not trying to conform and be like the stereotypical fighter.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes from your sense of self and your sense of, why are you doing this? Right? Would you agree that if your fighting career, your path would be different if you were looking at it to try to be like every other fighter?
100%. It'd be very different.
But and instead you're doing it to be the best Ali. Fighting is just a vessel we do that through.
Yeah. And I think a big part of it is when you truly do what it is that you want to do in life, that's what makes you uncommon amongst the uncommon. And I've been really blessed and privileged to be around very supportive people throughout most of my life, other dreamers who have, you know, uplifted my dreams more than people bringing them down, and been like, you know what? I am going to start my own business. You know what? I am going to do MMA fighting. You know what? I am going to do yoga and meditate and spirituality, and being approached by people like you of like, hey, you know what? I have this idea for a podcast, and not being scared of well, what if it doesn't work out? What if this takes me off the path? Well, I'm not going to be common anymore. And for a lot of things in my life, it there is a lot of fear of being uncommon amongst the uncommon, right? Going to the cannabis industry from oil and gas. I remember for 2 years, I did not peep a word about what I was doing. And I mean, that's hard to think about compared to today. Now I'm very active on social media and always sharing what I have going on in my life. But for those 2 years, it was like I was so scared to do something uncommon because I knew what the common belief system was in that conservative oil and gas world. So for some of our listeners, Jerrod, that might feel that within that calling to be uncommon amongst the uncommon, to actually take action towards their dreams, but have that bitch voice holding them back, have that doubt and fear overshadow this desire to be uncommon amongst the uncommon. What do you think are kind of the first steps to start doing that?
Well, I think first off, understand that you're not alone. Everybody, even the most courageous person, has doubts and negative self-talk and limiting beliefs. That does not only reside to you. So first off, quit feeling sorry for yourself about it. Like, it is part of human nature. We all have it. Two, I love that Courtney talked about this on her episode. Minimizing the delay between feeling inspired, feeling like you got your purpose, feeling like you need to move, and taking action to where your mind can come in and talk you out of it. So act quick, right? If you're going to make mistakes, you're going to learn, do them quick. Like, why prolong it? It's just like the Band-Aid, right? Like, you can rip it off super nice and slow and feel every hair get ripped and hurt, or you can just rip the sumbitch off and get it over with, right? So to me, that's a big thing is, one, realize negative fear and stuff is fine. We all have it. But two, take action, right? If there's something you're feeling called to do or something more you're wanting in life, do it.